Welcome to PCB Chat, where we talk with experts across the printed circuit design, manufacturing, and electronic supply chain fields. I'm Mike Buteau, president of the Printed Circuit Engineering Association. Today's guest is Wally Rhines of the ESD Alliance, which is part of the Semiconductor Equipment and Materials International Organization. Longtime listeners know Wally as the chief executive of Mentor Graphics, where he spent much of his professional career. Wally generously joins us each quarter to share the latest electronic design automation data. The quarterly ESD Alliance report covers sales of semiconductor tools, PCB design software, related IP and services, and employment, among other things. Hi, Wally, and welcome back to the show.
Hello, Mike. Glad to be here.
Today we are talking about the fourth quarter of 2024, which ended December 31st. The data we are sharing was released by the ESD Alliance on April 14, and we have more good news this quarter, Wally, but I have a feeling things are about to get really interesting. So let's talk about the macro results for a moment, and then we can get into the various segments. The market closed 2024 on a really good note, didn't it?
It did. It did. The final quarter of 2024 showed 11% growth overall for electronic design automation, and even stronger growth for the printed circuit board design tool world. So very strong close to the year.
Let's talk about the PCB and MCM design tools for a moment. Sales in the third quarter set an all-time single quarter record, and that certainly didn't last long. The fourth quarter blew right by it.
It did, Mike, and it showed relative to a year ago, almost 16% growth year to year. That's a great number for printed circuit board. And I think to some extent there were geographical surprises too, in that for PCB had an incredibly strong growth in the Asia Pacific region, unlike many other categories in EDA. And relative weakness, I guess I'd say, in Europe and Japan.
And, it was up, 5.6% or so, so sequentially, I think. So more than 25 million, I think, quarter on quarter.
Yeah. Compared to the prior quarter, it's up about $130 million, a lot.
Gain access to leading industry experts and the best technical information at PCB East, coming April 29 to May 2nd to the Boston suburbs. PCB East offers over 75 hours of free and paid technical sessions, ranging from printed circuit design to fabrication and assembly, brought to you by the Printed Circuit Engineering Association. The free sessions and an exhibition featuring more than 60 leading companies take place April 30 at the Boxborough Regency Hotel and Conference Center in Boxborough, Massachusetts, and cover topics about AI and PCB design, flex design, simulation, Ultra HDI, and more. For more information about PCB East, visit pcbeast.com.
So by my count, that is 16 straight quarters of year-over-year PCB tool growth. That's a nice, long recovery. Now, how are some of the subcategories looking? Like, say, for example, the library tools?
Yeah, the library tools were good, right near the top by 13%. But the ones that were even better, the analysis tools at 27%, which is a very big category. That's annual revenue of $430 million. That 27% growth has quite an impact on this part of the industry. And the other thing that grew substantially was IC package design at 72% growth. Once again, it's not as big a category. It's only about $85 million a year, because a lot of people report their package design revenue or sales in the category of PCB layout. And so it's sort of mixed. But I think this reflects the fact that package design is becoming a much more important part of why people buy tools for printed circuit board layout.
So inside of that PCB and MCM design tool category, we have layout tools, analysis, package, libraries, anything else?
Well, layout, physical design. So physical design is both for multi-chip modules and for printed circuit board. But yeah, you covered them all.
Got it. Now, the market surge was broad-based. Each of the four major product categories, plus the services category, all showed really healthy gains in the quarter.
It really did. In fact, there was double-digit growth in everything except semiconductor IP, the intellectual property for designing integrated circuits. So very broad, including services. And the employment was up almost 3% as well in EDA.
Yeah, so employment was up year over year, but I did note it was down sequentially in the fourth quarter.
That's right. It was down about almost 1% sequentially.
Do you track employment by region as well?
No, we don't. We have a total. Now, the problem is that reporting companies have operations in many parts of the world, so the total number is more meaningful than trying to break it down as to whether they hired people in one region and didn't hire in other regions.
That's fair. Well, I think the sequential employment was really the only little nick in the armor, right? Every major region grew at different rates, but they all were up as well.
They were. The one thing I would note was China was weak, but not weak enough to offset the tremendous strengths in the other regions of the Asia Pacific. China overall was down 17%, but the strong growth in other countries more than offset that.
So we are entering a new era, I think, of trade that's unprecedented in our lifetimes. To your knowledge, is software included in the products being tariffed?
I believe it is. I don't actually know. I'm not an expert in this area, but it appears that it would be, and certainly software that's embedded in other products is, of course, included as well. So, yeah, I think we're in a period of major uncertainty or possibly even certainty, since tariffs do not help anybody, and they do raise unemployment, they raise prices. They're nothing but bad for the world economy, as you've been seeing over the last few days.
Forecasts are turning a little bit down, right? And so let's just separate tariffs for a moment and just say, hey, look, if things slow down, especially after, again, we've had several years now of growth, if things really do start to slow down a bit, are there any things that you recommend people, any steps that they take, or is it just kind of, hey, keep operating and just push right through it?
Well, EDA is one of the interesting parts of the economic cycle, because in all other aspects of the semiconductor industry and the electronics industry and the electrical equipment industry, they're very sensitive to the economy. If the GDP or GNP decrease, then so do they. EDA is the outlier. EDA is relatively constant, and the reason it's relatively constant is you can't turn on your R&D and turn it off indiscriminately. It takes a long time to find employees. Projects take multiple years. So you can skinny up a little. You can reduce spending on some of the more speculative programs. But in general, right through a recession, the EDA spending stays relatively strong and increases as a percent of total revenue substantially because all the other expenses are being cut. Then when the recovery comes, of course, that goes back to a more normal percentage. And there are other phenomena you can see in the cycle. As the downturn begins, even before it's begun, you see an uptick in EDA sales because the engineers can know that a recession is coming and they want to stock up on the tools. And as you come out of it, it's a delayed recovery because the management is trying to get their EDA and R&D spending back in line as a percent of revenue, so they're resisting all the requests for new purchases. But in general, it's a great place to hide in a recession because volatility is far less than the semiconductor industry or other systems industries.
That's a great headline, right? EDA, a great place to hide. Well, I am anxiously awaiting how this next several quarters plays out. And, if I look at some of the bigger markets, right, bigger than PCB, just at semiconductor and semiconductor equipment for that matter, both of them show a lot of strength. If I look at AI servers, also still shows a lot of strength. Automotive clearly is going to be in for a bumpy ride, but I think there might still be some underlying infrastructure that could support some continued growth if I'm looking at this with the glass half full.
Well, if we go back to prior experience, we may see some strength in the next quarter or two because people move quickly to buy the product that was shipped before the tariffs took effect. So car lots are weaned of all the pre-tariff vehicles that are still at low prices, and same thing for technical software, semiconductors, other things. The things that were shipped before the tariffs are still in inventory and can be sold at more competitive prices. So it tends to stimulate a lot of demand in the short term, and then, of course, recession or worse in the long term.
Got it. Anything else jump out at you from the current report, Wally?
No, I think you've covered most of them. I'm impressed by the breadth of the strength. I'm impressed by the fact that the rest of Asia Pacific is so strong in spite of, or despite, Chinese weakness. And, the U.S. has been the bastion of strength through the cycles. I hope that continues, but of course we're all pretty worried about what the effect of this worldwide economic disruption from tariffs might lead to.
Well, thank you, Wally. I look forward to catching up with you again next quarter. Hopefully, we'll be able to keep this cycle going at least a little bit longer.
Okay, Mike. Thank you.
For PCB Chat, this is Mike Buteau. Have a nice day.